Everyone, how's it going? And welcome to episode 4 of this little mini series where I run through all of the new runes in patch 4.3 for Wild Rift. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Resolve tree, which has some very interesting new runes, some changes to some runes, and some really cool reactions. So make sure you stay tuned. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video, and the rest of the playlist will be down in the description if you want to check the other runes out. Taking a look now down in the Resolve tree, we do have some runes in this tree that will be very familiar to most of you, as they are pretty much the same as what they were on previous patches. Some of them have changed and have slightly adjusted, so we will be talking through all of that. But also we got some new runes in this tree, which I think some of them are going to be very strong, and also they are very exciting runes coming to Wild Rift. First up, we're going to take a look at the first row, which you're going to see two runes that you're very familiar with, Nullifying Orb and Font of Life, but they have both changed. And we also have a new rune, which is Courage of the Colossus. First, let's take a look at Font of Life. Font of Life in the previous patch was a keystone, but now it is a minor rune, so they had to do some adjustments to the rune. It is quite heavily nerfed, but I think that's totally fair, because this now being a minor rune means it's a lot more viable now on a lot more champions. You don't just take this on Brom anymore, you could take this on a lot more champions. So hitting an enemy champion with an attack or ability will mark them, and when allies or you damage that marked target, you heal those allies and yourself, and each ally can trigger this healing once per mark. As you can see, the healing, the ally healing and the self healing have both been reduced quite a bit. The mark duration is 3 seconds, and then you have a 15-second cooldown for melee champions and a 20-second cooldown for ranged champions. Now, as I mentioned, this rune is now a lot more viable on a lot of other champions. Yes, you can still take this on Brom, as this was his main keystone rune as well, but now there's some enchanter supports, for example, that want to take Font of Life. Champions like Janna, champions like Lux, Lulu, even Soraka, because you could proc Font of Life during a laning phase by poking enemy champions, and you can heal yourself by proccing the mark, or you can wait for your allied champion, your ADC, to walk up and also auto attack that mark, and you're going to get a lot of sustain during the laning phase, which will help you quite a lot. I think this is a very underrated rune right now, and again, you can use this on so many different champions. You can even use this on tanks up in the Baron lane to give you a little bit of self-healing, and also give your team healing when you join team fights. There's plenty of cool interactions that you can do with Font of Life now, since it is not a keystone. As for the other rune that is quite similar is Nullifying Orb. The big change with Nullifying Orb is that it no longer scales with attack damage and ability power. It's now just a flat amount. So if you would take damage from a champion that causes you to fall below 35% health of your maximum health, you gain a shield that absorbs up to 60 to 190 damage based on level for a few seconds. So now this rune again is a lot more viable on a lot of other champions. You're not relying on building a lot of attack damage or ability power to make sure you get the full value of Nullifying Orb. This now just passively scales. You don't need to build anything to be able to increase the shield of Nullifying Orb. It's just 60 at level 1 and 190 at level 15, and it's a little bit buffed as well, because 190 at level 15 was definitely, it feels like a bit more than what it was, you know, if you'd build it on an AD carry with like full AD items. This is definitely another option if you're playing like a squishy champion, for example, or if you're playing maybe a tank in the Baron lane that doesn't really benefit from going for Courage of the Colossus because you don't have any crowd control, and you don't really feel like you're going to get much benefit from Font of Life. You could just take Nullifying Orb. Still getting that shield when you drop lower health can definitely benefit you a lot. Now it's time to take a look at the new Resolve tree rune. In the first row, we have Courage of the Colossus. Now there's nothing too crazy to explain here for Courage of the Colossus. It's just a really good tank rune for any champions that like to immobilize. So you gain a shield that absorbs 25 to 45 damage based on level, plus 1% of your maximum health for 3 seconds when immobilizing an enemy champion. It has quite a low cooldown as well. 10-second cooldown is quite low, and the big thing is that this does scale with maximum health. So you want to mainly build this on tanks. You don't really want to build this on, say, mages. If you're going to go like support Lux, for example, even though she can immobilize, a shield on herself is not really that valuable, and also you don't really build that much maximum health, so that shield is not really going to be scaling that much. But again, nothing too crazy. I'm going to show you how the interaction works in game, and I'll also show you a few little indicators that can show when Courage of the Colossus is active. Now, as I mentioned, there's nothing too crazy with Courage of the Colossus, there's no crazy interaction or anything like that. I just wanted to show you a little bit of an indicator and a small little thing that there is to note with Courage of the Colossus. So when you do proc Courage of the Colossus and say champions like Nautilus, which by the way, it does work with his auto attacks, you can hear that little bit of a sound and you can see that there's a little bit of a projectile around you. So that's the really important thing to note with Courage of Colossus, is that you'll hear the sound when you have that big massive shield on you, so you can play a little bit more aggressive, but also there is the little bit of a projectile around you, I guess you can call it. Another big thing as well is that Courage of the Colossus can stack on top of other shields as well. So for example, if I was to proc Courage of the Colossus here, I can also use my second ability and stack that shield on top of the Courage of Colossus shield. So you can get like a huge massive shield on, say, someone like Nautilus if you're building full tank, by engaging with your ultimate and then also activating your second ability afterwards, which will make him really, really difficult to take down. Moving down to the second row for the resolve tree, these are all 3 runes that you're all going to be familiar with. We'll quickly run through them anyway, just to explain to you, how they're good and who they're good for, but they're all pretty familiar. I think everyone knows how all of these runes work now. So second wind, you gain 5 health every 5 seconds after taking damage from an enemy champion, and you regenerate a little bit of health as well over the next 5 seconds, and this effect is doubled for melee champions. So because this effect is doubled for melee champions, most of the time you just want to take this on melee champions. Melee tanks up in the Baron lane, bruisers up in the Baron lane as well can benefit from this a lot, because you can trade during the laning phase in the Baron lane or even the mid lane. Go back a little bit. You don't even have to go back to base, just walk back a little bit, go out of combat, and then you're going to be restoring a lot of health over time. This means you can stay in lane for longer, means you can farm up more minions, or maybe try and go back in and take another trade. I think this is a great option for anyone that wants to take little short trades in the laning phase and just wants to back off and get healing up from the minions and also from second wind, because being able to be out of combat, you can still be attacking minions, and that's completely fine. That's completely fine. You don't even need to be out of combat in terms of being able to be out of combat from minions. It just needs to be out of combat from champions, and then you'll be able to get that insane amount of restore over time, which is really, really nice, to be fair. Next one is loyalty. I don't know why this rune is still in this game, I'll be totally honest with you. The only champion I can see this be really viable on is Yuumi, but again, no one's going to take loyalty. This rune just needs to be either removed or replaced or something, because why would you take loyalty when you have things like second wind and bone plating in the same category? It just doesn't really make any sense to me. But you gain 2 armor and 5 MR, and your closest ally gains 5 armor and 2 MR. Most of the time you build this on supports, but again, if you're playing a support, you'd much rather take bone plating or even second wind instead if you're a melee champion, because it just gives you so much more value overall. 2 armor and 5 magic resist doesn't really do too much. 5 armor, 2 magic resist doesn't do much at all. It's not really that great. I don't really recommend to go for this rune at all, again, because there are so many better options in this row. And then for the final rune in this row, we have bone plating, which is kind of probably one of the strongest minor runes I think in the entire game. Whether you take this for your main tree, for your main resolve tree, or whether you take this as your secondary option, both times can be really, really effective during laning phase, during team fights, and especially in this meta. So bone plating, when taking damage from a champion, then the current and next 3 champion abilities or attacks against you and within 1.5 seconds deal less damage. So you see there it says the current and next 3 champion abilities. So the current one that you get hit by, say for example, if you're against a Teemo during laning phase or something like that. Say for example, that Teemo auto attacks you or tries to use an ability on you, or say you get hit by the shroom, that current damage that you're just about to take, it gets reduced. So not only is this good against combo damage, this can still work very, very well against poke, because that poke that you're going to be receiving is also going to be reduced. So it's good against poke, it's good against combo damage, it's good in team fights, it's good in laning phase. It's just all around a good rune to take. It's just a basic rune pretty much for every single champion in the game. If you're struggling to pick a secondary rune, if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not too sure, I picked precision as my main tree, I'm not too sure what secondary tree to go for, what secondary rune, just go for bone plating. It's very, very simple, very balanced, and yeah, very, very strong. Really, really good rune to take. Now, for the third and final row in the result tree, we have two new runes, Overgrowth and Revitalize. But before that, let's take a look at a rune that you're all going to be very familiar with. That is Perseverance. Now, I think Perseverance as a rune is going to be very, very strong in this current patch because there's no other ways really of getting Tenacity. The only two ways you can get Tenacity is from Perseverance and also from Legend Tenacity, because the Mercury Treads, the magic resist boots, doesn't give Tenacity anymore. So Perseverance, you gain 10% Tenacity, and on top of this 10% Tenacity, you also gain armor and magic resist for 1.5 seconds when you are immobilized. And this duration is refreshed when you are immobilized multiple times. So say if you get hit by a Lux binding and then a Morgana binding within a few seconds, that armor and magic resist that you get for 1.5 seconds will be refreshed. So this, again, this is really, really big. Not only does it give you Tenacity, but also if you do get crowd controlled, you will get that little bit of armor and magic resist, which will protect you a little bit against, you know, assassins that might jump on top of you, or anyone really that will jump on top of you when you are immobilized, which is from stuns, roots, or anything like that. Now let's move on to the two new runes. First up, let's take a look at Overgrowth. Now Overgrowth, I feel like, is very, very powerful in the jungle. I don't think it's as strong in the laning phase, but in the jungle, this is by far one of the strongest secondary runes to take on bruisers and also tanks. So Overgrowth, when 2 minions or 1 monster are killed, it don't know why it says 1 monsters, but it's only 1. Really weird, are killed nearby, you permanently gain 3 maximum health, and this maximum health can be increased indefinitely. So that means that this 3 maximum health that you're going to be getting every single time you kill 1 jungle monster, it's just going to keep going up and up and up and up. So you're just going to keep on getting maximum health throughout the entire game. But also there's another big thing. You gain a bonus 3.5% maximum health upon reaching 30 stacks. So all you need to do is kill 30 jungle monsters or 60 minions, and you'll be able to get 3.5% bonus maximum health. That's why I'm saying this is really, really good on bruisers in the jungle that like to build a little bit maximum health. Items like Trinity Force, Divine Sunderer, all these items, Sterix Gauge as well, which give you a little bit of maximum health for these bruiser items, and also tanks at the same time, because gaining that 3.5% bonus maximum health is actually pretty big. Now, there's a few things I want to note with Overgrowth with you, a few little things and a few little notes for Overgrowth. So you can mix and match how Overgrowth is stacked. So you could say, for example, you can kill 13 monsters if you really want to, and then kill 30 minions, and that will go up to being able to get 30 stacks. You can mix and match between the two, so you don't have to kill 30 jungle monsters or 60 minions. You can mix and match between the two, so you don't actually have to kill a certain amount of one type of minion or monster. Every type of minion and monster will gain the same amount of HP. So whether you kill a red buff or a small raptor, this will still only give you 1 stack. Same with minions. Say if you kill 2 cannon minions or 2 range minions, that will still give you 1 stack. So it doesn't actually matter what you kill at all. You can still just get 1 stack just from being able to, you know, go through the jungle and just farm through the jungle. Now, this can also work on Scuttle Crab and also for a dragon as well, which is pretty big because you get like bonus stacks basically from Scuttle Crabs and jungles. So the way that I kind of worked this out and the way that I tested it is I went through the jungle and I did 1 full jungle clear. Now, 1 full jungle clear at the moment is 14 jungle camps. So you got blue buff, Grump, 3 wolves, then you've got, I think it's 4 raptors in total, red buff, and then 4 Krugs. So that's 14 in total. So you've got 14 jungle monsters in the jungle that you could go through. On top of that, you also have the Scuttle Crabs that you can also take. So you could roughly go up to 15. Now, if you just do a full jungle clear, 14. If you do 2 full jungle clears, you get 28. That means you only need 2 more jungle camps or 4 more minions, and then you'll be able to get that 3.5% maximum health, which is really, really big. Like, you're going to get this really early on in the game. So the more health you're going to be building, the more it's going to be increased by gaining this 3.5% maximum bonus health. So you could do something like 2 full jungle clears to kill 2 scuttle crabs, or kill dragon, or kill herald. Or, I hate to say it, go to a lane and just kill 4 minions. If your laner is not there, if there's minions dying underneath the tower, go to that lane, kill them minions, and you'll be able to get more stacks towards Overgrowth. As I mentioned, I think this is going to be a lot stronger in the jungle. I think in the laning phase, it might be a little bit weaker because 60 minions is still quite a lot. You roughly get like 5 minions per wave, so you're looking at, getting, quite a few waves underneath. That's like over 10 waves that you have to kill before you can get Overgrowth fully stacked. Yeah, I think overall, I mean, that's not over 10. Oh, it is over 10. Yeah, I did do the maths right. But yeah, overall, very, very strong rune in the jungle. Not that strong rune in the laning phase, but still can be very, very good. So definitely give this a try if you're playing bruisers or tanks in the jungle. For the final rune down in the resolve tree, we're going to be taking a look at Revitalize, which has some very cool interactions with some very interesting champions, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But Revitalize, you gain a 5% amplification effect when casting, healing, or shielding. And if the target's health is lower than 40%, it amplifies its effect by an additional 10%. So you can go up to a 15% amplification if the ally champion is lower than 40% health. Now, this obviously works on champions like Janna, Nami in terms of healing and shielding ally champions, because that's how it works. When you cast a healing and shielding effect on an ally champion, they will get that healing buff or the shielding buff. But how does this work on yourself? How does this self-healing and self-shielding work? Well, I did a few testings and this is what I came up with. So self-healing does work. So champions like Nami, for example, with her second ability, and also Janna with her ultimate, both of these actually work on themselves. So not only is this really good for healing yourself in terms of Nami and Janna, but also this is going to be healing your team at the same time. So you get a huge massive buff with being able to heal your team, but you also get a huge massive buff with being able to heal yourself. Champions like Nami, this is very, very powerful because you'll be able to use this during the laner phase to full effect, because you can use your second ability to poke, but you can also bounce it back to yourself to be able to use it very, very well. However, healing like Omnivamp doesn't work. It says in the description, it says amplifying effect when you cast a healing and shielding. So you have to kind of cast a healing and shielding. So passive effects from healing, so things like Omnivamp and also Swain Ultimate, doesn't count towards Revitalize. However, one thing I did test was Aatrox. When I was testing Omnivamp, I was thinking to myself, I was like, just healing and shielding in general. I was thinking, what's a champion that has a lot of healing? Aatrox. And surprisingly, Aatrox's passive actually works with Revitalize, but it doesn't actually work with Omnivamp or something like Swain Ultimate. So it's really, really interesting how it works. So it seems that it needs to be some sort of, ability or some sort of passive, but which is not a passive healing over time for it to be able to work, because Aatrox's auto attack is just from one hit. But something like Swain, for example, is kind of like health regen. Like the health is regenning over time. So things like health regen and everything like that won't work with Revitalize. So there's like a few interactions that you could probably test out for yourself and give a try. Let me know down in the comments if you figured out anything else with Revitalize, because I think there is a lot of things as well. Things like self-shielding also works on targetable abilities. So things like Janna shield and also Lulu shield. If you shield yourself, then it's going to work. This was quite difficult to test, but I believe it works because I basically shielded myself with and without Revitalize, and I took tower shots and I looked at the little bars to see if it was higher, and it did seem like it was higher. So things like, Janna shield and Lulu shield will work. However, it didn't seem like Shen shield works. The Shen shield from his passive that he gets, I don't think that worked, but I'm guessing his ultimate obviously will work because he's given his ultimate shield over to an allied champion. So you're actually casting a healing or shielding effect on an allied champion. So I didn't really test out the Shen ultimate, but I'm guessing that works with how the other shielding abilities work, things like Janna and Lulu shields. That's everything with Revitalize and the resolve tree. We got one more set of runes to go in inspiration, and then we are done for getting through all the runes in Wild Rift patch 4.3. And that's it for all the Resolve Tree runes. We got one more episode left after this one, which will be in the inspiration, which will be out in a few days time. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that one, because there are some really awesome runes in that tree. But Resolve, as you saw, there are a lot of cool interactions, a lot of cool runes. So let me know down in the comments what you think of the Resolve Tree and what runes you'll be picking up. As always, take care, and I'll see you all in the next wild video. Peace.